fellow Danvers and YouTubers across the country. Thanks for joining us today for Community Connections. This DCAT version is an in-depth look at one particular organization. We try and do this once a month. And with me today is Tony Leone from NAGLY. Tony, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, John.
It is a pleasure. So let's start with what is NAGLY.
Sure.
And what is your mission statement?
Yeah, so NAGLY is the North Shore Alliance of LGBTQI+ youth. Our mission statement is to teach, educate, empower, and honor LGBTQI+ youth from kindergarten through age 23.
Wow. Now, I'm familiar with the organization just a little bit, but if you go to their website, there's a ton of information on the website, and it's amazing how much work you do for these children with these children. I know your focus is on youth, not the adults, and but the amount of programs that you offer, the type of counseling, the resources, the education that you provide for them, just tremendous. Tell me how that all began.
Yeah, thank you, John. So we started in 1992 in the basement of a church. We moved up to the attic of a church and then back down to that basement of a church. And we were fortunate enough to have our permanent home now in the Witch City Mall in downtown Salem. We started with two cisgender straight allies who wanted to support a marginalized community, the LGBT community at that time. And it just slowly transitioned into what we have now, where it's so inclusive, so accepting. We have over 150 youth that access our services throughout the week. And we have about 450 individual youth that are part of the NAGLY community and what we call the NAGLY family.
And take me back, kind of what prompted who saw the need for this, who said, you know, there's something that is a void that we need to fill, and this is how we're going to fill it.
Sure. So it was actually an individual who was in the social work field and deemed that it was really necessary for the LGBTQ+ community to have a voice. And they knew that at that time in 1992, our voices were not there, right? They weren't, the AIDS epidemic was prevalent. There was so many different factors that we couldn't find that voice. So somebody stood up and said, I'm going to help navigate that voice. So they began the organization, and then from there we had our first LGBTQ+ adult advisor who ran with it, started kind of weekly meetings, weekly support groups, and then from there we were able to proceed, had a volunteer executive director for a while, and then we were able to hire an executive director, and then they hired me in 2020 as the second full-time staff member of NAGLY.
So this is amazing. The 150 kids that come in on a weekly basis on average, you're doing that with 2 paid staff and the rest is volunteers who are getting things done.
Correct.
That's wonderful, it really is.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you need more volunteers, right?
Yes, yeah, always need volunteers. If anybody's interested in volunteering at NAGLY, feel free to reach out to me. We'll give the email at the end and the website. I'm the one that's in charge of bringing in volunteers and kind of vetting them and making sure that it's the right fit for allies, but also representation within the space as well.
That's great. So let's run through the various aspects of your mission statement. Let's talk about education, for example. Sure. How are you educating these youth? What programs are you offering? How are you going about getting that done?
Yeah, so we have a whole education department essentially at NAGLY. We work on social skills, we work on activities of daily living, we work on life skills. We also work on math and reading and cooking and imaginative play skills like role play games. That's a really great way for our younger middle school youth to express themselves in a different type of environment, in a safe and brave environment. So we're fortunate enough to be able to work on education, building up resiliency. Tolerance, unfortunately, is something we have to talk about right now with the world that we live in. So having our youth build up the ability to advocate for themselves, take time, be in a community setting with like-minded individuals and other youth and peers that are going through similar things that they might be going through.
Gotcha. And what kind of resources do you provide to these kids?
Yeah, we have so many different resources. We have mental health counseling on site. We do referrals for long-term therapy. We do testing, HIV, STD, STI testing for our 16 up individuals. We also have our the YWCA, which is the Rape Crisis Center, come in to do free confidential counseling and testing as well. There's so many different resources that we have. We have a ton of community partners that we really rely on and work with to make sure that if we can't do it in-house, we can provide that referral and that support for an LGBTQ plus youth who needs it outside of our space.
Gotcha. And how responsive are you when someone says, I think I may have contacted something?
Sure.
Did you say, like, come on in, we'll get you an appointment today? Or?
Of course. Yep. If we can't do it in-house, then I can send them to somebody who can do it right away.
Right away. Beautiful, beautiful. And you mentioned outside partners, which makes me think of funding. Sure. How are you funded?
It's a great question. So we are not state or federally funded. We do have less than 10% of our funding is state funding, so very small margin. Most of the funding that we get are sustainable donors, grants. Some money trickles down from the NAGLY network, which is Bagley runs the DPH grant, the Department of Public Health, and then it disperses some funds to the other AGLYs. But for the most part, our executive director is tasked with writing grants, finding funding opportunities, reaching out to donors to make sure that we have the money to sustain, and to make sure we feed our kids and give our kids the best support we possibly can.
You know, I like how you call them your kids. You have after-school programs that I think you said run from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Yep.
So I assume you're feeding them dinner in between there.
And snacks, a lot of snacks.
Yeah. Can't come home from school without getting a snack. That's,
exactly. Yes.
First thing on the list.
Yep.
So I imagine it's a very expensive program to run,
Yes.
but a very important one. What other programs do you have that are up there on the cost level,
Sure.
As well as the priority level for the children?
Sure. So I would say our mental health support is really high up. We do pay our mental health clinician, and we're able to screen youth too, which I think is really important. So we have a crisis management background. I have one and our clinician has one. So we're able to screen youth in-house for any type of suicidality, for any type of self-harm, for any acute mental health challenges that they may have. That's a big cost for us, but it's a really important cost, obviously. And we'll do whatever we can to make sure that we provide that care. We know that some youth really need higher levels of care, so then we'll refer to Elliott Mobile Crisis or Elliott Community, which is also in Danvers. They're a great mental health provider and support. That's probably our largest cost, I would say, but again, our most important cost.
Do you have big donors, i.e. corporations, or is it more individual donors who are writing you a check?
It's a little bit of a mix. We don't have a lot of sustainable grants. We have a lot of like one-off grants or one-term grants. We do have a couple that are more large scale, but I think our donors are really where we get a lot of our income.
And they're the people who are just writing a check and
Correct.
happy to help
Which
out.
is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. What other programs are kind of up there on the list that you see as a regular need every week?
Sure. So every week we have different programs geared to different age ranges. So Mondays are middle school Mondays, pretty easy to remember, right? Tuesdays are teen and young adult Tuesdays. Wednesdays are just drop-in hours for any youth ages 11 to 23. Thursdays are open for community time, so that's where we open up our space for our trans, non-binary, gender-expansive individuals ages 18 plus, and we have different programs running there. And then on Fridays, we have our Fierce Fridays. That's just drop-in hours for any youth that want to come in ages 11 to 23. That night alone, we could see 60 youth in our space. So that's our big night, Friday nights. We also have weekend programming now as well. So I would say every day we're trying to do whatever we can to make sure that we provide that safe space for our LGBTQ plus youth and allies.
So let's talk about the alphabet there.
Oh, yeah.
How has that changed in the 30 plus years that that the organization has been helping them?
Yeah.
And where does the future of that look like it's going?
Yeah, you know, I always say LGBTQ plus, right? I think that plus does incorporate more letters of that alphabet. I would love to expand that and be able to incorporate all of the different gender identities and or sexual orientations that there are out there, right? Because we want everyone to feel that level of inclusivity, right? I think for now the LGBTQ plus stands pretty solid. I know back when we first started, it was just LGB. Right, it stopped. Right, we knew that trans individuals were there, right, but it just wasn't as inclusive as it is now, and I think that's where we're starting to fight and continue to make changes.
And is your organization, and that's probably why you have such great membership, if I can call it that,
Sure.
is because it is so inclusive.
Yes.
Do you find that your members are finding that inclusivity elsewhere as well? Are the communities growing to be more inclusive? Certainly through the diversity, equity, and inclusion time period we went through, and now with the latest, we're not going to call it that anymore, and corporations stop using it in their corporations. But I still feel like the education, not only through your organization, but in general, to the general public has become a lot more inclusive, a lot more understanding, a lot more willing to reach out and help other people. And I'm thinking that that may be a good thing for your organization as well.
Yeah, we live in a great state, right? We do. We live a little bit in a bubble, especially in Salem, Massachusetts, where we do have those protections, right, and that safe environment. However, outside of our four walls, our youth are met with bigotry, with hate, sometimes right outside of our doors, right, inside of our Witch City Mall. So yes, we're growing. Yes, we're more inclusive as a state, but there are still many, 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 many challenges that our youth face. One thing we do really well is we go to schools. So I do training and education for different school districts, mental health provider networks, to just give them a rundown. LGBTQ 101, why it's so important to be a strong ally, not just an ally, a strong ally, and really what that looks like, being a supportive adult. One quick stat I'm just going to throw out there, and this is to everyone in the audience as well, or watching at home, I should say. If LGBTQIA plus youth have one supportive adult in their life, the suicide rate drops by almost 25%. So imagine having a room full of supportive adults, right? So,
well, that brought up a scary statistic. What is the suicide rate among them?
It's pretty high. So I haven't looked at the 2024 data quite yet, but I know 2023 it was above 53%, 54%. Wow. So it's high.
That saddens me.
Yeah, it's high.
Yeah, that is a shame. Okay, on to brighter topics.
Yes.
And, how can the North Shore community help your organization? What can they do? What should they be doing? Who should they be looking to?
Yeah, so there's so many different ways to get involved, right? Whenever I do trainings, I talk about what a silent advocate looks like. A silent advocate can mean sharing things on social media, helping somebody in need. Yes, sending money is great, but, being able to do little things, right? We have somebody making little crochet hearts for our youth, like just little things like that to show support from the outside community. Those are ways that silent advocates can really make a huge impact on what we do, right, as an organization, but also showing our youth that there are safe and supportive people outside of our space. You can also be a more visible advocate. Come volunteer at NAGLY. We love having allies. One thing I say, and I joke around about this, we don't check gay cards when people walk into the door, right? So as long as you're a strong ally and you're willing to commit and be that strong support for our youth right now, we'll welcome you in with open arms. So there's many, many different ways to show support and to get involved within the LGBTQIA plus community. But the biggest thing is just stand up, right? Maybe help navigate youth's voice. Don't take it away, right? But help navigate their voice to be able to stand up right against that bigotry and hate right now.
That's great. You talk about volunteers. I know a lot of people, anytime they volunteer for anything, say, well, I don't have the training for that. Talk to me about what you do for your volunteers so that they feel very comfortable in whatever role they're going to participate in.
It's a great question. I'm actually glad you brought that up. So we go through a screening process with any adult volunteer that sends me an email and says, hey, I'd love to volunteer. We do a background check. We vet that volunteer. Any adult that is over the age of 25 is categorized as an adult volunteer within the space. They go through a Brave Model or Brave Space training, which gives them the opportunity to kind of lean into their own vulnerability, embrace their own discomfort, and how they might kind of see themselves and embrace the space, right, as an adult to be able to serve and work with our youth. Our young adult volunteers, which is 18 to 23, they go through a little bit of a different education model where they go through kind of hands-on peer leadership and how to support our youth within kind of that similar age range. They all go through quarterly trainings, so mandated reporter training, emergency response training, things like that. So to really start with the organization, you don't need much of a background or a training. As long as you're willing to learn, that's the biggest thing.
Right, excellent. Talk a little bit about your space.
Sure.
It's over at the...
Which City Mall?
Which City Mall?
Yes.
It's changed its name.
It has, a few times.
East India Mall?
East India, Museum Place Mall.
Okay, there you go.
Yep.
So anyhow, showing my age. Describe your space for me.
So when you walk in our doors, we have a front lobby. It's a beautiful space. We have 5,200 square feet, which makes us one of the largest LGBTQI plus youth spaces in Massachusetts, actually, which is pretty special to us. We have a health and wellness room. We have an art center now. If you walk down the hall, we have a couple of offices just for staff and myself and our executive director to work and take calls when we need to. We also do counseling in there as well. We have our youth lounge, which is full of age-appropriate video games, DVDs, which a lot of our youth don't even know how to use anymore. I know, it's crazy, but we have Netflix. We have all the different streaming services. Then you walk down, we have our gender expansive or affirming boutique. That's another thing that I'll plug real quickly. If you'd like to donate gently used clothes to our NAGLY boutique, please reach out to me. Again, I'll give you the email at the end. We're always accepting gently worn clothes or brand new clothes, especially different type of aesthetics. We're looking for more female presenting sundresses. Please send them our way. We don't charge any of our youth for the clothing that we have. It's all free, and it gives them the ability to come into our space and express themselves how they truly are, even if it's for a couple of hours. So we really praise ourselves on having those gender affirming clothes available for our youth to wear. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out. You walk down the hall a little bit, you have our tech center and library full of books. Over 3,000 LGBTQ plus titles are in the space. You can rent them out. Continue to walk down, we have our restrooms, our kitchen, and then we have our large space, which is our rec center, but also used for all of our meetings that we have, different shows, performances as well. So it's a pretty big space.
It's funny, it never occurred to me the gender affirming space that you have in the clothes, and what you said had an impact of it may be the only time they feel comfortable presenting in that fashion.
Correct.
And so it's important for them. Maybe they come every week to do it or whatever, but it's their opportunity to be who they are.
Yeah, it's their safe space.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed that on the website, safe space is something very, very important to you, as I would imagine it would be. I think that is a key component to those 5,200 square feet.
I agree.
What other programs do you have going on? I know you have stuff that runs every week. As a matter of fact, I copied some down off of your website. If you want to take us through them,
yeah, for sure.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. So
these are your weekly topics,
yes,
right?
Yes. So all of our meetings that we have are age specific. So we have a lot of youth that come for just drop-in hours, which is totally great. We love it, and they access our center mainly for support, but they can also attend any of our clubs. They're not like mandatory. You just come in, you pick and choose clubs that you want to be a part of or
like what type
try.
of clubs?
So we have D&D, which is a role play game. We have our math club. We have a social skills group for middle schoolers. We have two art clubs. We have an illustration club. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have a self-defense class that we run on the weekends as well. So youth can pick and choose, what they want to do when they come in for drop-in hours. So that's kind of like one area. Then our programs are more like group specific. So they do have topics. So middle school Mondays from 6:30 to 8:30 is our structured meeting. We might do anything from baseline education, right? Mental health, coping mechanisms, to Art 101, to expression, to STEM activities, right? Anything you can think of for that middle school age range. Teen, we kind of move up a little bit more, right, and work on more gender affirming type activities. We might do gender inclusive sex ed. We might do risk reduction, whatever that looks like, but also throw in some art and some activities. Queer adulting, similar. We're working on higher level, right? So we're working on life skills, resume building, socializing, right? Community connections, that I know, name. So we work on a lot of those things as well. And then our trans and non-binary group is specific to how to be trans and non-binary, gender expansive within the world that we live in right now. So all of our programs vary, and all of our topics vary.
Great. I want to ask a sensitive question for me.
Sure.
In that, to me, the word queer still seems like a bad word.
Sure.
It's like I would never personally say that
Sure.
to anybody.
Yep.
Yet apparently it is a very appropriate word if that's the way they feel.
Sure.
How do you balance that as an individual?
It's tough. It's hard. I think I look at it like we've taken back that, right? It used to be such a negative connotation, right? It was a negative word. And now I think our youth and young adults have taken that on, where it's like, no, this is our word, right? This means something more positive to us. You know, yes, any word that you can think of can be used in a negative way, right? It depends on how you use it. But I think the word queer now really reflects the LGBTQ plus community, mainly individuals that don't identify or aren't cisgender, right? So trans, non-binary, gender expansive, that's like the queer spectrum or the queer umbrella. It kind of puts everything into like a little bit of a
Space,
balance, space. So that's kind of where we come, but there are many people that still don't like that word, and we're totally okay with that. We won't use it. Right. But we do identify ourselves as a queer affirming and queer space.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Of course.
What else have I missed, Tony? What else should we be telling everybody about?
Yeah, you know, we have a couple major events coming up. We do have our Red Party, which is our annual gala. It's a big fundraiser for us, so that is April 5th. It's at Rockefeller's, right upstairs at Colonial Hall. Tickets are on sale. Feel free to check out the NAGLY.org website to purchase your tickets. The biggest thing I really want to stress to viewers is just continue to support, right? Be a listening ear, take a step back, try not to make assumptions, right? And really validate your youth or the student or the young adult that you might have within your life for who they are, right? Maybe just right now within the present moment, and help navigate that journey, right? Be a part of that youth's life.
Right. Yeah, kind of the treat everybody as you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Be accepting of who people are. Who are we to judge anyone?
Yes.
And not just the LGBTQI plus community, anyone. You know, it's not our purview to judge people. So just be supportive.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly.
And so volunteer.
Yes.
Talk to us about the volunteers in terms of classes that you need. What types of things can people do to volunteer?
Yeah, so our volunteers have vasting experience, right? If youth want to come in and just help out in the space, take out trash, do stuff like that, we can totally accept that. We love having youth come in that just clean up. Amazing. Or volunteers, sorry. But we also have volunteers that come in that have special skills and hobbies. Every time I have a volunteer come in, I say, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, what is there to do? I'm like, I want to know what you want to do. Before I give them tasks, I want to know if they have special interests, hobbies, things that they're really passionate about, because that's how we retain volunteers. That's how we know that our volunteers feel like they're at home here in the space, just like our youth feel at home. So we have a filmmakers club. We have different opportunities for young adults to run clubs and run groups. So volunteers can pick and choose kind of what they want to do. Yes, we have things that we need coverage for, of course, but there's also specialties that we can do. We always need volunteers to help just within our space, to be bodies right here, to be affirming adults for our youth. So drop-in supports is always something we need. So really just reaching out to me and letting me know what your interests are, what your hobbies are, and we can kind of morph and figure out where you might fall within the space.
Excellent. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you so much, John.
I think we've run our course then. Again, Tony, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. And best of luck with everything you have going on. Tremendous organization. Please visit their website. Check it out. Look at all the programs that they offer, all the resources that they're trying to create for these youth. And that's kind of a key. I should have hit on that at the beginning. It's youth oriented. Tony has certainly mentioned it, the 11 to 25 or 23-year-olds. But it's a youth oriented program, and the youths are our future. So do whatever you can to help them, whether you want to donate money, whether you want to volunteer, whether you want to drop in and see what it's all about. Feel free to do that, please. Again, the website will be up on the screen. So Tony, again, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Goodbye, Danvers, and all the YouTubers around the world.